you have to concentrate and be. Me, I have to be in the right frame of mind to do anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's typical probably with anybody who wants to turn something out.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyhow, the thought should have come to me 50 years ago about writing Henry. I would have sent it, maybe not to Henry personally, I would have sent it to Ford Company and then it would get to Henry.
Yeah.
That way he wouldn't think I'm trying to shove something down his throat.
Yeah.
Get a car or something. I would have worked it out. But Alice told me, she says, John, everybody thinks Henry's a great guy and all, and he is. But he never lived up to his word. And I said, what do you mean, Alice? She said, well, when he was here, now Alice had a daughter and two sons. So three of them in that family, of the Ford family. So anyhow, she said he didn't keep his word. Well, the daughter, she probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years old at the time. So she said Henry took a liking to her. He seemed to take a liking to the girl, and he told her when he left that he was going to send her a new Ford. And so anyhow, he went back to the factory, and that's the last they heard of him.
Oh, really?
He never sent the
He never
Ford.
sent it?
So Alice thought that was...
That's funny.
Henry didn't keep his word.
No? Huh.
But Henry, I read a piece one time in the Reader's Digest. Someone was ribbing Henry Ford about his writing. He was a very, very poor writer, very, very poor writer. And old Henry, he gets sparked up one day, somebody was ribbing him, and he said, well, the reason for that poor writing is this. He says, you know, a brilliant man, that is he's a poor writer, but the reason is his brain is working 20 times faster than he can think. And so he's trying to he's right to keep up with his brain, and he just fouled up his writing.
Could be.
So his brain worked 20 times faster than he could write. And that was so he was scribbling to keep up with it.
When you were in school, did you meet Bill? No, you didn't meet Bill then. When you were in school, did you have a lot of? Were all your friends from? Did you go to a school with a bunch of friends?
In Auburn?
In Auburn?
Yeah.
A bunch of what?
When you were,
Friends.
did you go to high school in Auburn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I had a lot of friends.
Yeah.
This was the thing that now. I don't know if I got 5 of them out there living today. They're all gone. They're all gone.
Did your parents?
After all, you live 75 or 80 years. That's pretty good. But here I am getting pretty 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're gone.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the stock in them somehow. Like the doctor and I, we kid about it. I said, I don't know where I come from. And he said, I don't know either. But I saw Doc the other day, a week or so ago. I said, Doc, I found out where I come from. Well, good, I'd like to hear that. He said, where do you come from? He says, living this long, pretty good health and all. He said, where'd you come from? I said, well, I got a Scotch cousin that lives in Santa Clara. No, Santa Rosa. I said, I got a Scotch cousin, and I said, I was talking to him the other day on the phone, and I said, we got to talking about Scotland and some of our relatives. And he told me, he said, John, you know, you lived a long time, and he says, I've tried to figure out how come. And I said, well, a lot of us have been trying to figure out where I come from and how I'm still going. He said, I said, what happened? How am I doing this? He said, well, I'll tell you. He said, in Scotland, somewhere along the line with the relatives there, he said, one of the genes of some of those relatives got loose. One of those genes, and he says, you inherited that gene. He says, a long life gene.
Yeah, straight from Scotland.
I want that gene. I hope I got it.
So I inherited a long life gene.
That's a good story. I like it. How long did your mom and dad live?
My father died as a young man, 46.
Hmm.
And my mother, of course, lived to 82. And see, that's my family on both sides. None of them went much over 82.
Huh.
Yeah, but my father, he was subject to pneumonia, and he had pneumonia several times. I had it a couple of times myself. But he had it several times, and of course they didn't have the new myosins and whatever you call them. And so he died from pneumonia.
What about your mom?
But no, he wasn't a strong person, and he couldn't fight the pneumonia.
What about your mom?
My mother, she went on and she never remarried or anything, but she lasted to 82. 82. And of course she was a relative of the Wells, Wells Fargo Bank. And they come from Missouri, all that deal, and my mother's name was Wells.
Okay.
Delia Wells.
Delia?
My mother.
Delia?
Huh?
What was her first name?
Delia.
I like that name. Wow.
D-E-L-I-A.
Huh.
Yeah. So
There's one like that in a TV show.
Now,
Yeah.
some of my sister took an interest a couple of times and ran down a lot of this stuff on my mother's side, and she never would part with it, never give me any copies of it.
Huh.
And I have let's see, I guess I have a cousin or a second cousin that within the last couple of years, she and her husband, they're both retired, and they're living up in Grass Valley, and she and her husband got interested in the genealogy of some of my folks, and they did a wonderful job. She's got books of stuff. So anyhow, she knew about the Wells Fargo connection, so she and her husband were in San Francisco, and they went into Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo got a wonderful museum, they tell me, down there. It really covers a lot of things. So anyhow, they wanted to go in and see if they could find out some information, but the bank turned them down. They didn't do it. So anyhow, my cousin, she talked to whoever this person was. She said, well, you know, I'm a relation of Wells. So, geez, that guy got interested right now, and he says, well, she is Delia Wells, and lived in Auburn all this time, and my God, they opened their arms up, and she had access to everything.
Huh.
So she got a lot of information. Now, I haven't heard from her. She come down here and got some information from me. And she got mad at one of my cousins because she went to that cousin, and that cousin wouldn't, for some reason, didn't give her any information. Didn't want to give her any information. Well, I put in a few words there, so I gave it to her. So she and I were pretty friendly. But after she got all this together, I wanted to see it all together because she had really a lot of it.
I'd like to see it too.
And anyhow, as soon as she got all that together, I haven't heard from her in 3 years.
What's her name?
Huh.
What's her name?
What's her name?
Yeah.
Well, she's oh God, what is her married name? She was, let's see how this goes. Wells. Let's see now, her father was Joseph Wells. Joseph Wells, that's her father, yeah. So that would make her.
Is it your mom's brother's
my
daughter?
Mom's brother. So that would make her a cousin.
Cousin. Yeah.
Cousin to me.
Uh-huh.
All right, now what the devil was she? She married as kind of a Finnish name. He's a nice guy. He was a carpenter and a good one. He's a good carpenter. And anyhow, they retired and are up there, and I haven't heard from them. But somebody told me here not too long ago that knew him, and that her husband hadn't been well for some time. He's done very well. But I don't know why she stopped, and of course me, I don't follow up much of anything, and so there it is. I haven't heard from her. I should pick up the phone and call her.
Yeah, I'd like to see that
You know.
information.
But I thought she would come to me.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that maybe she was expecting that I would come to her and get together and maybe pay her a good price for a book, you know. Because she really did a good job.
When didn't Wells Fargo start in like 1840s? When did Wells Fargo start? The
Way
service?
back.
1800s.
There's a little joke in there, and I don't know if it's true. I don't know if any of it's true, but it seems as though Wells and Fargo were partners in mining. They were partners in mining, and they just went out in the woods and picked a spot and dug a hole and hit gold, and then they spent it and they didn't have any money. So anyhow, it went on for quite a while. So anyhow, they split up their mining together. And I guess Wells got more interested in the banking business and somehow. But Fargo, he kept on mining and he couldn't make any money and he went busted. And so he come to Wells one day and he wanted to borrow some money. So they were a little party. He thought, well, Wells will loan me some money. Well, Wells didn't loan him any money. He didn't loan him any. He didn't trust him. So that made quite a deal. But I don't know if that's true or not. But anyhow, he's supposed to try to borrow from Wells, and Wells wouldn't give him any money.
So would it have been your mom's like grandfather?
Yeah.
Who started Wells
Yeah.
Fargo?
Yeah. And they had a big picture of him up here in the Wells Fargo Bank for quite a while. They've taken it down now and all their remodeling. But they had quite a big picture up there at Wells. And I used to go up there, and of course the manager I knew, he was a friend of mine, and I knew, and every now and then we'd be sitting at the desk there talking out of the car. I'd say, well, there's my relative, whoever he is, old Wells, I said.
Wouldn't that be your great-grandfather?
I don't. Sometime I'll have to sit down, I guess, and get a hold of somebody and run it down.
Yeah,
See,
that would be
true
interesting.
or true. But anyhow, first my mother, you see, I wasn't interested in those, but my mother had a lot of this stuff. And I wasn't interested because I was a kid. I was too busy running around running my
Doing other
1917 Ford and chasing around with the golf pants on and golfing, and I was just too darn busy. So I wasn't interested in asking my mother anything. But I knew more on my father's side because my dad and I talked, and I was just a kid. But we talked a lot, and I remembered it a lot more on my father. Whereas on my mother's side, I never talked much with my mother about it. I should have. She had a lot of stuff. Yeah, but anyhow, that's the way to go.
Yeah. Did she? Do you
It's just
have?
boring. I'm bored. You guys.
Well, you know what? No, not
Grandpa,
at all.
I love it. I love learning about this.
You know what's really funny is Amy's cousin Ann works for Wells Fargo, and my brother Ben works for Wells Fargo. So they're actually working for
my great-great-grandpa.
Yeah, your great.
It'd be his great-great.
Yeah, so no, it'd be.
Oh yeah, so my great-great-great.
It would be no. It'd be your great-great-grandpa, and
Okay.
it's your it's your great-grandpa. Yeah,
my
it'd be like
dad's
that.
great
I don't know
grandpa
about
and
the
mine
great-grandpa. That's a sticks me. I don't know.
It's a relative of some sort. That's
Yeah.
for sure. That's
I'm gonna
funny.
just
Yeah,
call
they
it my
have-
great-great-great-grandpa.
No, we need to know for sure.
They found some records in San Francisco there that went back to, I think they came from St. Joseph, Missouri. I think that's where a lot of this.
So your mom's name was Delia Wells.
Delia Wells.
Yeah.
It'd
D-E-L-I-A.
be probably pretty easy to find out.
Delia
Yeah.
Wells.
I like that name.
And anyhow, this story goes that they have a museum there. I have heard that before. They have a museum in San Francisco in the bank. They have a lot of stuff.
Do you know that's where Ann Catree works?
Yeah.
She works at Wells Fargo in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, that's right. She
Mhm.
did. I remember now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
You should ask her to stop by and check
Yeah.
it out sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, she might sometime be able to
Mhm.
dig out something.
That would be
But,
interesting.
This cousin here up at Grass Valley, God, she's got a lot of stuff.
What's her first name?
What the heck is her name? I'm not good at remembering way back to too much.
Yeah,
Does Dad
yeah.
know it?
Huh?
Does Dad know it? Does Dad know who this cousin is?
Who?
Does Dad know who this cousin is?
No, he's never met her.
He's never met her.
Never met her. Let's see, what the heck is her name? Yeah, she and her husband, it's been about 3 years since they came down here last time. They were just about finishing the book. But I'm surprised that she didn't come down and go over it with me. And,
Yeah.
you know, I might have made some kind of a deal with her to get a book,
Get a
to
copy.
get something from her.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because her husband got sick. Somebody told me he had been pretty sick,
Huh.
and she, because we're always good friends.
Do you have it written down somewhere?
Oh yeah,
Her
I got it
name?
in the phone book.
You have it in the phone book?
Oh, maybe I could squeeze out time. I don't know, and give her a call just to see what's going on.
I'd like to see the book too, so if you can do that, that'd be good.
Well, if I got it, yeah, you could see it.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But she had a lot of stuff gathered up. Yeah. My sister had quite a bit too. And my sister one time called me and said, my sister was friendly with some woman that lived in Salinas, and my sister lived down there in the valley. And so my sister was friendly with this woman, and this woman told my sister that there was a relative of mine, and she gave his name, and that he was buried in the old cemetery in Auburn. And it went back to many years. And he was a miner too. And it went back to several years, so he was buried up there. And she gave me a name. So of course I knew all the people in the cemetery and all that, so I went to the head of the cemetery association up there, and they said, John, we'll run this down, it's kind of interesting. So they spent about a month there before I heard from them. But they said they couldn't find any record of this man, and they'd gone over to the cemetery. There was a certain area that he's supposed to be buried in. And they went through all of that, a lot of old graves, and of course some of the headstones were gone. And in those days, most of the headstones were wooden deal and made kind of a deal in black ink or paint, you know, on their names. So that had all rotted away.
Yeah.
But anyhow, they told me they couldn't find anything at all.
So, Grandpa, where did your parents come from? Were they born in?
My parents?
Yeah. Where'd your parents come from? I know they lived in San Francisco.
My parents, my father's side,
Yeah.
Scotland.
But why did your parents come? I mean, were they born in San Francisco?
No.
No?
No, they had no connection that I never could find out. See, I wasn't interested too much because I used to go down to my aunt's place there. I was about the only one in the family that ever kept contact with my people. And I went all the time down to San Francisco to stay over a weekend with my folks there on the Dunnett side. And, but they came here, as I understand it. They were in Scotland, but my dad, I forgot just what now they said. But anyhow, my grandfather and my grandmother, for some reason, I don't know what now, made up their mind they were going to get out of Scotland. And they came to San Francisco, and my dad and my granddad went into shoemaking business. He was kind of a shoemaker. He'd make them from scratch. So he opened up a store somewhere in San Francisco, and he was in that business for a while. But anyhow, I never could figure out why they left Scotland, because they were all entrenched there, you know. Go way back. You see, my name and my ancestry, I'm French way back. They were in France, and so the story goes they were driven out of France in the French Huguenot uprising, and so my folks they went up to northern Scotland, and anyhow they all settled up in northern Scotland. I have all the name of the place they settled and all that. And my cousin wrote me a letter here a while back, a couple of years ago. She went over there. She wanted me to go with her, in fact, but I didn't go. So anyhow, she this burns me up because she met what they called the greeter. He was a man in Scotland, in this little town where my father was born. He called the greeter, and his job was that when the Queen came to visit in Scotland, he was the greeter that greeted the Queen and saw that she was well taken care of and all that. And yet, she just dropped it right there. No, I would have pushed on, and I would like to, you know, if I'd been me, I'd say, hey, I'd like to come over to your house and we could sit and talk.
Yeah.
For a while and get some information, but no, she was too big a hurry. She had to get going.
Huh.
But anyhow, I don't know just what caused them to come. I always wondered later on in my later years why they came.
But
broke up the family.
But then your mom and dad were born in San Francisco.
But my mother was
your
born
mom.
in Auburn.
Oh, in Auburn. Oh, that's right. Your dad was born.
So this little story goes that my dad, was an uncle. And his brother, I think, and my other uncle. They decided they wanted to see what California was like, you know, and so they got a horse and buggy. And they started out from San Francisco and they came all around the country. And from there I lost track of, never could get the deal, how my dad happened to meet my mother. But anyhow, they met, and but I often wondered about why they left Scotland.
And do you
but
know?
See, France, going back to France, our name was pronounced Dunnett. And when I was coming up as a kid, my God, half of Auburn was John Dunnett.
Wow.
John Dunnett, after half of Auburn, they pronounced it the Scotch. I mean the French.
The French way.
And then, of course, when they went up into Scotland, so it goes that I think there was one T, when the name was spelled Dunnett in France, it was Dunnett. And when they went up into Scotland, somebody along the line added an extra T.
Well,
called Dunnett.
There's an area in northern Scotland called Dunnett Head.
Yeah, Dunnett Head.
Is that the area?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, they were, now let's see. I was trying to think, this little town, I've got it all down somewhere. But it's on the north tip of Scotland, and I got a coat of arms there. And Lord Lyons, all these guys got, their official names and people. Lord, this guy was Lord Lyons.
Who?
And he was just a guy. He was in a position. I don't know what he was. Probably some kind of a governmental deal, and in the upper class deal. And he was a Lord Lyon. Well, Lord Lyon and me got pretty familiar, writing back and forth. So I wrote to Lord Lyon one time and telling him I was trying to see if I was entitled to a coat of arms. Now, there was a book printed, as I can see it yet, about the size of that one there. And it was a blue book, a blue cover. And it, what was in, the name of that book? Anyhow, it listed all the people that was entitled to different names. So this Lord Lyons told me, he says, there's no listing in there for Dunnett. And we went back and forth. But anyhow, I got a hold of some other guy back there. And he said, if you send me, I think it was $20, he said, I'll get you the coat of arms. So I sent him $20, and I got back in the frame deal of Dunnett.
Huh.
Now, Lord Lyons says it's not official. So I never followed up anymore, so I don't know.
What about the tartan, like, isn't there like a plaid or something that goes along with certain family names?
Yes, it's tied in with family names.
Yeah.
So, but in this blue book, it didn't list it, and so Lord Lyons, he was going by the blue book and he couldn't find it. But later on, I forgot now just how that was. But anyhow, later on, I got a letter, not from Lord Lyons, but from somebody else, and they said that they had found the Dunnett, and if I would send them $250, I think it was, well, they would see that it was properly registered. So I said, heck with that, I have
That's a lot of money.
$50.
Yeah. A lot of money.
This is all boring.
No, I love it.
No, I like it too.
I love it.
I like to know our history, Grandpa. I like to know it. I want to know our history.
But anyhow, it's kind of fun.
But Wells is from England then, right? Wells?
Yeah.
England.
Background is English.
What about Schmidt?
Huh?
What about Schmidt? Grandma's maiden name, Schmidt.
Schmidt?
Schmidt is from...
Well, she came from a class deal in Germany.
Okay.
But I don't know much about that. I never got into much of that. But her cousin, they went back to Germany, she and her husband, and they went there, and they went to the house where the Schmidts lived at one time, and it was quite a fancy deal. But they dropped it too, and I would have thought they'd have gone ahead because she was like Irene, closer to the deal, and you know, thought she would have wanted to know more. But she didn't, and they had money, and they went where they wanted to go, and that was it.
Do you remember Grandma's mom's last name? Grandma's mom's maiden name?
Her maiden name?
Yeah,
Irene.
I know.
Irene Schmidt.
But now, what was her mom's maiden name?
Gross.
Gross. And where's
Irene
that from?
Gross.
That's German too.
Is that German too?
They claim German.
German on both sides.
Somebody thought they were German Jew.
Huh.
Gross they thought was more of a Jewish name,
Huh.
but it seems as though the Gross is both German and Jewish, I guess. But they were really German people. They looked like German and they acted German.
Interesting.
She's Irene's granddad. He was quite a character. Matter of fact, he was using this can here is about 90 years old.
Oh, wow.
You know, I went down there one time, he's sitting on the front porch of his house. It was the summer. It was kind of warm, hot. He's sitting on the front porch like this, all by himself. So I went in and I said, well, I come down to see Irene, because Irene was his granddaughter. Well, he says you can't see her. She's running around. I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, that damn Willina's come down from Grass Valley. This Willina was a great friend of Irene's, and they met in college. And anyhow, that's another story. But he said she's out with Willina again. I said, well, what's wrong with that? They said, oh, every time you come down here, you gotta run around with Willina. So I said, well, that's okay. So I stayed and visited with him. He was grouchy. And then I left. I went back home. But in the meantime, Irene went with Irene, my brother, one of my brothers. He went to Grass Valley quite a bit, and he married a Grass Valley girl eventually. And so one time they came to my house, and I was living in Auburn there, and they had Willina with them. So Willina and I, we seemed to get along real good. So Willina said to me, she said, well, why don't you come down sometime, we'll kind of overlook, see what's going on in San Jose. They were going to college there. Okay, so I went down, and it kind of went along, and I kind of liked Willina, and she liked me. Well, Irene was Irene's friend.
Uh-huh.
So, Jesus, that didn't work out very good. But anyhow, to make a long story short, I dropped Willina, and Irene and I got married.
That's
and
a good
Billy,
story.
They called her Billy for short. Yeah, Willina. And her father was a miner too, in Grass Valley.
Huh. So you met, did you meet Grandpa?
Hi, happy California for now on.
I think his name either, but I know it well. And I later on met him. He was a nice guy too. He's all right. But Irene and I got along good, and I knew all the politicians around in Auburn. And every year, for several years, I got the tickets to the big game in Berkeley
Huh.
for Irene and me. No cost to me.
Oh, that's nice.
Friends of the lawyers and different ones that went, they said, John, we're not going this year. Here are your tickets. And they're right on the 50-yard line.
That's nice.
Oh, gosh. So we
That's
had a lot of
exciting.
fun